The UCLA women's basketball season is one you don't want to miss. Your top 10 Bruins are well on their way to another Final Four run. We need you to get to Pauley to support this incredible team. Led by Lauren Betts, Gabriella Jaquez, and Kiki Rice, newcomers Gianna Neepkins and Charlize Ledger-Walker. This group plays an exciting brand of basketball and wins. The time is now to come to see these stars in action. Big-time matchups are coming. Go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today. Can't wait to see you in Westwood cheering on the Bruins.
Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. Pretty serious business today. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson. And just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. It was great hearing Susan Shelley on the air this afternoon. We are live right now on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com, as well as the on-demand Motec Money podcast, KBC.com, Apple iTunes, all your favorite podcast platforms. Rough day on Wall Street to kick off the holiday-shortened week. Stocks moving sharply lower, suffering their worst day since last October after the president's comments that the U.S. take control of Greenland, reigniting fears of a trade war. The Dow came in for a closing loss today of just about 871 points, selling at 48,489. The S&P 500 down 143 at 6797, and the Nasdaq down 561 points at 22,954. Looks like the volatility index, the VIX index, Wall Street's so-called fear index, saw a big spike today, spiking higher by about 27%. Looks like the precious metals hit record highs again today. We'll be talking more about that shortly. Gold right now hovering at around $4,765.70. Silver is above $94 an ounce at the moment. Let's pull up platinum here. Platinum at $2,454 and change, and palladium just shy of $1,900. We did see some movement in the bond yields as well, with the yield in the 10-year note spiking today to 4.29%. All of this related to what's happening on the geopolitical scene. Looks like the dollar took a hit overseas. The Swiss franc rallied today. President Trump doubling down on his desire to take over Greenland, firing off social media posts on his way to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average seeing its worst day since last October, and the other major averages followed. The small cap index, which had been hitting record highs recently, also pulled back today as well. We're also watching what's happening, of course, in the Middle East. After pulling back from strikes on Iran last week, President Trump is pressing his aides for what he calls decisive military options, according to the Wall Street Journal, as Iran appears to have tightened its control of the country and targets protesters through a deadly crackdown that has killed thousands of people. We're also watching what's happening in Venezuela as well, and we'll be discussing this in great detail coming up here shortly with the military and geopolitical analyst Hal Kempfer, based here in Southern California. Colonel Kempfer will be joining us live later this hour. In the business of show business, Netflix reporting strong fourth-quarter results this afternoon after sweetening its $72 billion deal for Warner Brothers Discovery Studios and the HBO Max streaming service. Looks like Netflix stock today closed down about 74 cents, exactly 74 cents to 87.26 a share. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent commenting on the Fed and the White House locking horns. Secretary Bessent for the past year has been seen as the administration's moderating voice. On Fed Chairman Powell delivered a public critique of the Fed chair today on CNBC. During an interview, he said it was inappropriate for Chairman Powell to attend Wednesday's oral arguments in the case of Fed Governor Lisa Cook, arguing that his attendance would be an attempt to put his thumb on the scale for the institution. One of the biggest issues impacting businesses and everyone here in Los Angeles continues to be homelessness. Tonight's the night hundreds of volunteers will start fanning out for the Los Angeles area homeless count, including the San Fernando Valley. They'll be beginning the 3 nights Greater Los Angeles homeless count starting tonight. I'll be joined later this hour by Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission in Los Angeles, which is on the front line of homeless solutions here in L.A. on Skid Row as well as the San Fernando Valley. Mark Hood will be joining me live later this hour. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, and the whole works now. Joining us live, top-ranked money manager Ken Winans. President and Chief Investment Officer, Winans Investments, winansinvestments.com. Ken Winans is also a market historian, author of numerous books. His latest is Investment Atlas 3. He's also a Forbes magazine contributor. He has his crypto credentials, too. He's also host of Winning with Winans in the Las Vegas area, and the Wealth Minute features right here on 790 KABC. Ken Winans, thank you very much for taking the call on this big day here today.
Well, hello, Frank Motek. And yes, it was a big day, and a lot of us did not need any coffee this morning. It started out very, very wild. It went from there. And, it's interesting. I've talked to a lot of investors, a lot of clients. In fact, some of your listeners have sent me messages on this. That we have had geopolitical shocks before. Some have been, I go back and think about what happened, tragedy of 9/11, certainly the invasion of Iraq, all these kind of things. And you have to begin to wrap your head around that, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you go into a bear market. It doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be things that go up. And, the shock, there certainly were some interesting observations that I made today. Number one is that who would guess that the Russell 2000, this is the small stock index, would have basically only gone down 1% today. This is not what we've seen over the last couple of years. So there's definitely a shift in the leadership.
On there live with top-ranked money manager Ken Winans on a day in which we've seen the Dow tumble nearly 900 points. Interesting that the small cap index held up pretty well and has been rallying lately, which is usually a very bullish sign. And you mentioned the geopolitical issues here with Greenland suddenly front and center here. Of course, not to mention Iran and Venezuela, which we'll be talking more about later this hour. The president in Switzerland for the big Davos conference. So one big headline after another here, and then we got the Federal Reserve locking horns with the White House, and we'll be in court tomorrow, and then also any minute now we're expecting a Supreme Court ruling on whether President Trump's tariffs are indeed legal. So quite a few wild cards. Look at that volatility index today, Ken Winans, spiking 27%. What do you expect on that front?
Well, I think it's safe to say that, there's going to be volatility this year. And then, Frank, there's one other thing I will add that I've been watching very closely. It's the news out of Japan. The Japan bond auction today, or the bond trading, was completely just crazy all over the map. So again, people thinking that you can necessarily, hurry up and get money overseas is going to protect you. You have to pick your poison. Every country has some of their own issues. But here's what's interesting, and I think that everybody should just kind of begin to wrap your head around, look, there were some groups that went up today. There were some groups that barely budged today. And a lot of people have been overly comfortable just sitting with very high weightings in tech stocks and things that have worked the last 2 to 3 years. But it was shocking. Consumer staple stocks were actually up on today. I was amazed to see some of these stocks that have been just maligned for literally the last 18 months. You look at stocks like Budweiser, Bud. You look at, hang on a second, I'll give you a full list here. But you're looking at some interesting names. Brown-Forman, a Canadian liquor company, it's up 4% on the year, 3% today. Budweiser, BUD, is up 8% on the year, up today. Molson, another Canadian company, publicly traded in the U.S., is up 5% on the year. Coca-Cola, I could go down the list, Frank, but my point is, the markets are telling you that this will be a short-lived negotiated settlement, but I think that there's just a shift in money going into some of these groups that have just been doing nothing for years. The other group, we've been talking about a lot, commodities, and I know there's a lot of talk about gold, but I'll tell you what, go take a look at some of the other stocks in the commodity complex. I was shocked to see today, Alcoa was up 3%. That is aluminum. The steel stocks are all doing well. The point I'm trying to make to everybody is that I think that although we've been talking about a leadership shift for many years now, I really do think this is the year it's going to happen. When you've got Apple down on the year, you have NVIDIA hasn't hit a new high since October. I think that there's a bit of a wake-up that we all need to go through right now.
All right, let's talk about gold and silver. Hard to ignore silver getting close to $100 an ounce here. We're at 94 and change. I guess in Shanghai it's already over 100. We've been talking about how the price starts there and has been going higher. And then we see gold here at 4,765 an ounce. Platinum and palladium also at or near all-time highs. How much higher are we going to see these precious metals go?
We call this in the commodity world, we call this a melt up. You have where, momentum begets momentum. All I would tell you is that I've seen it several times in my career that when the metals do turn and there is a sell-off, this momentum can go down hard and fast very quickly. I myself started re-diversifying some of my silver positions, especially silver, into copper. I think copper is going to be a very, very strong metal this year. I think you also have to take a look at things like palladium. And then I think the other distinct thing that we have to take a good hard look at is what happened today with the cryptos and with the dollar. Both were down 3% today. I see that money continues to move out of some things that everybody was hot on a year ago, and it can continue to drive these things higher. But Frank, commodities, again, I mentioned earlier, it's not just the metals. There's a lot of other things that are moving, or let me rephrase. It's not just the precious metals, but industrial metals are moving here. The market is telling you we're not going to go into a recession.
All right. What about the other wild card that's out there? It didn't happen today, but there was a buzz about it. The Supreme Court rolling any moment now on the legality of President Trump's tariffs, which could lead to a refund of $100 billion in a worst case scenario by the Treasury Department. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh boy, are we going to make a bet here, Frank? You want to have a bet on this thing?
because I'll tell everyone's betting on everything now, so not a bad idea.
Really, yeah. It's true. We're all betting odds. I'll tell you what. As I look at it, I do think there will be some language from the Supreme Court that the president has the ability to do tariffs under the rules that he's used. However, like almost everything, it's not meant to be permanent. There's supposed to be a timeline. I think that it might be safe to say that on any long-term tariffs, there might be some language in the Supreme Court ruling that will say this will have to go back to the houses of Congress. So I think it's going to be, my guess, I think it will be a win. There's some very, very smart people in the Trump administration, and I don't believe they would have gone down this path without this being thought through. However, I think, again, they can only go on for so long. Now, the other thing that's obviously been coming up a lot, and as a historian, I've been asked to talk about what's going on in Greenland. I would just caution everybody on this. Number one, there's many, many parts of the story, and this has gone on a very, very long time. We have had a treaty with Greenland to militarily defend it for a very long time, I think since 1951. But a lot of this it's basically tabled under the argument that NATO has not been doing its job. This is the way the president is looking at it, that Europe is not spending enough on defense, and that Greenland is very important to the United States, to Canada, and the other members of NATO. So, again, I think, although I'm not a political expert, there is a lot of things that go on that requires all of us on both sides of the aisle to look at the whole picture and look at it historically.
All right, a lot of history involving Iran over the last 40 years or so here with the regime now turning on its own people, killing thousands of people in the streets, and the Shah's son speaking out forcefully, and it looks like he wants to go back there. The price of oil and all this now back above $60 a barrel. It's kind of surprising that it's not higher, but with everything else going on with domestic production up, and now Venezuela also appears to be in our camp here with the oil companies. Once again, the price of oil hovering around $60 a barrel. What do you see ahead with the energy prices here?
It's actually interesting. Energy was the fourth group today that actually, I'm talking about stock-wise, that did reasonably well. They were only down about 0.6% when the S&P 500 was down 2%. So it just goes to show that, again, commodity-type plays seem to be holding up very, very well in this environment, and that's even in spite of the fact that inflation is not going crazy. Frank, I think I think at the end of the day, if we didn't learn our lessons from last year, we'll have to basically relearn them this year. There will be volatility this year, but again, when I look at the internal statistics of the stock market, meaning there are more stocks above their 200-day moving average than below. Volume levels are very strong. The advanced decline line statistics are strong. when you look at all of that, at this point, I'm still treating this as just a temporary shock in an otherwise bull run. I would just say one other quick thing. We've got a lot of earnings coming out next week, and that could turn the tables on how the rest of this month plays out. A shockingly huge number of the S&P 500 stocks are posting next week. I think that will tell the story about where we go from here, at least for the first half of the year.
On their live with top-ranked money manager Ken Winans. Getting back to the cryptos for a moment here. Rough day for the cryptos. Bitcoin back around 88,000. It was up around 95,000 over the weekend, and Ethereum back below 3,000. Doge at 12 cents. What do you see happening here with the cryptos and where they go from here?
You know, I hear it when I talk to people, and obviously I'm a cryptocurrency trader. I went through the certification, so I clearly understand this. I just think you have the metals, and especially the ETFs for gold, silver, platinum, copper. They're stealing the wind out of crypto sales. And then you throw on top of it that it was a very bizarre Senate hearing that went on a week and a half ago that I think we had talked about on the show last week, where, I mean, you had a lot of the major players in crypto just shaking their head when you still were going back to some very rudimentary arguments with certain senators who are very powerful on both sides of the aisle. So I think it also that the regulations that we thought would be streamlined and efficient for crypto, I think it's going to take a good part of this year. Personally, a lot of people that I talk to who were all ready to put money into alternatives, alts, whether it's private equity, crypto, or any of those things, they're saying, hey, I'm doing just fine right now with my gold, silver, and platinum plays. Talk to me later. And I think that's probably the way it's going to play out. But no, to say that, you know, the main cryptos that have futures bouncing off of them right now, there's not a lot of momentum right now. There's just people rebalancing those holdings. One other quick thing, Frank, is that you have to pay attention to the margin requirements on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. They set the margin requirements for commodities that trade on an exchange, which includes Bitcoin, Ether, and Solana. Right now, my understanding is they're raising those requirements, which means it takes more money to trade the futures. Those are all headwinds for crypto. That's not necessarily going to put new umps into a new rally just yet.
On the Air Live with Ken Winans. Wish we had a whole another hour here, Ken, but while I have the chance, let me ask you here, any specific places where you are putting money now and or taking it off the table?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm just going to bring up that I think, again, you got to go take a good hard look at some of these commodity-type stocks. And the ones that I'm going to throw out here, here's an old name that most people don't really know much about, except if you know anything about soybeans. That's Archer Daniels Midland. This stock is actually up 6% on the year. It has a dividend. It was up today. Take another stock it's in the steel area. It's called Commercial Metals, symbol CMC, and Cleveland Cliffs, which is CLF. These are all old line steel and food processing companies. They seem to be leading the way. I would just say this again, any tech stock that misses its numbers in January, I think you need to rebalance your portfolios and don't just keep thinking it's going to keep going up forever. Either they move up or move out of your portfolio. This is a year to do rebalancing.
Ken, thank you very much for taking the call here. Of course, I wish we had more time here now, but we'll have to stop there. Ken Winans, top-ranked money manager Ken Winans, President and Chief Investment Officer, Winans Investments at winansinvestments.com. Thank you very much, Ken, for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank. Take care.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
The UCLA women's basketball season is one you don't want to miss. Your top 10 Bruins are well on their way to another Final Four run. We need you to get to Pauly to support this incredible team. Led by Lauren Betts, Gabriella Jaquez, and Kiki Rice, newcomers Gianna Neepkins and Charlize Ledger-Walker. This group plays an exciting brand of basketball and wins. The time is now to come to see these stars in action. Big-time matchups are coming. Go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today. Can't wait to see you in Westwood cheering on the Bruins.
The CJ Pearson Show.
I'm CJ Pearson, and I'm the host of The CJ Pearson Show. Every week, we'll take on the biggest cultural, political, and moral battles in America head on.
From a perspective you won't hear on mainstream media.
No spin, no filters, and no apologies.
Straight talk and fearless, real perspective.
Family, faith, country, bold truth, real conviction, zero permission. This is The CJ Pearson Show.
The CJ Pearson Show. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Motaca Money continues. 790 KABC coming off the three-day weekend. Stocks pulling back in a big way. Worst one-day drop for the Dow since last October. The Dow coming in for a closing loss of nearly 900 points, down 871 at the bell at 48,489. Last week, the Dow was at an all-time high. The S&P 500 down 143 points at 6,797. The S&P 500 also hit a record high a week ago, and the Nasdaq down 561 points to 22,954 as some of the tech high flyers got slammed today, including the magnificent one NVIDIA, pulling back more than $8 today, back to $178 and change. Taking a look at the precious metals at or near all-time highs today, with gold at the moment hovering at around $4,765.70 an ounce. We see silver up there, too, hitting record highs, $94.29 here at the moment. Platinum, $2,454 and change, and palladium at the moment at $1,899.50. Price of oil moving higher today with tensions rising around the world, especially with the military assets moving, U.S. military assets moving closer to Iran. We'll be talking more about that here shortly. The price of oil of $1.09 at $60.53 a barrel. Taking a look at the yield in the 10-year note, it's up there at 4.29%. Crypto's having a rough day today, as did the dollar. Bitcoin right now hovering around 88,400. Ethereum at 29.40, and Doge at the moment at 12 cents. Motaca Money continues. 790 KABC. Rough day for the stock market in the face of many geopolitical concerns out there. The Dow down 871 points at the bell today. S&P 500 down 143. The Nasdaq down 561. The volatility index, by the way, spiked 27.
The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauly Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauly Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauly rocking.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
My name is David Goss, and I'm joined by my co-host Megan Klinenberg.
Everything up until this point has been an outside look at the World Cup, and now we're giving people an inside look. It is just total pressure cooker.
Watching flags come out of little plastic balls is like the epitome of everything that I love, and the World Cup is everything. It's why I became a soccer fan.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Today, President Trump's amping up rhetoric on Greenland, putting the issue at center stage at the Davos Forum in Switzerland, the World Economic Forum. He was asked today how far he's willing to go to acquire Greenland. The president told reporters, "You'll find out." That seemed to have rattled the markets today, pushing to take over Greenland, a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. The president writing on Truth Social over the weekend that starting February 1st, he would impose tariffs of 10% on imports to the U.S. from 8 European countries that have expressed opposition to the U.S. taking over Greenland. Those tariffs will increase to 25% on June 1st and remain in place until a deal is in place for Greenland. All of this while looks like military assets are moving closer to Iran. According to the Wall Street Journal, after pulling back from strikes on Iran last week, the president is still pressing aids for what he terms decisive military options, as Iran appears to have tightened its control of the country and targets protesters through a crackdown that has killed thousands of people in Iran. Joining us live now is military analyst Hal Kempfer. Colonel Kempfer, retired U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, national security analyst, and host of the Strategic Risk Assessment Talk podcast, also known as the Strat Podcast. Retired U.S. Marine Corps Colonel Hal Kempfer, thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank.
Take it from the top, and first on Greenland. What's going on?
Well, President Trump is in Davos. He's talking to world leaders. Obviously, he's been making a lot of statements about acquiring Greenland various different ways, buying it outright. He's threatened to use military means. Europe had a exercise schedule, but they sent over. But a lot of European NATO troops went over there. Somehow, the White House interpreted that as they were standing tall to stop a U.S. assault or something, and it got misinterpreted. The rhetoric got kind of sharp, but I'm kind of curious what he's going to do when he gets to Davos. I have a feeling there's a middle ground somewhere, less than a total acquisition, maybe something akin to the compact states thing we have in the Pacific. I don't know, but I have a feeling there's a compromise out there, and he does that. He puts things way out far, and then he usually comes back with some sort of compromise. Most notably, he did that with Panama, you may recall.
Certainly, and what about what's happening here now with NATO, locking horns with NATO? Of course, Denmark is part of NATO, right? So any attack on Denmark or Greenland included would mean an attack on all the NATO countries, including the United States. How significant is Greenland these days?
Technically, Greenland's very significant, but technically, if we were to attack Greenland, Denmark could ask for Article 5 to be invoked, which is the one for all for one article, they call it, where the mutual defense, which would be bizarre to have all of our NATO allies actually coming to Denmark's aid to fight the United States. That would definitely rip apart NATO. Not the first time that we've had NATO countries attack NATO countries. If you recall, back in '74, Turkey and Greece went to war, and that was the first time that ever happened. But most members of Congress, most members of the administration, Secretary Bessent of Treasury have all said, look, that is a very, very, very unlikely or not going to happen scenario. So that probably won't occur. But NATO definitely is taking great exception to the rhetoric, great exception to what President Trump is alluding to. And it's already causing great tension and a rift within the NATO allies.
Is NATO at risk of collapsing given what's going on?
Well, if we were to militarily try and take Greenland, there's a very good chance. That's what the Danish Prime Minister said. If that happens, NATO would probably cease to be NATO. I don't know if it'd cease to be NATO in entirety, but it would no longer be the North Atlantic Alliance. That the whole transatlantic alliance is really the foundation of which is on the United States. That goes back to World War II. That's what led to NATO after World War II. During the Cold War, that was the strength of the alliance. The only time that Article 5 has ever been invoked, I should mention, was on behalf of the United States after 9/11. And Denmark and Greenland and Denmark together were fierce allies. I mean, they were our strongest, probably one of our strongest allies in Afghanistan and Iraq. They lost more troops killed per capita than any other NATO ally during the war on terror. So they have definitely felt the commitment to America, and to say that they are not feeling, the commitment now of America to Denmark, or actually seeing this opposition, they are bewildered with what they're seeing. They went from being a staunch ally to basically they feel like they've been thrown under the bus.
On the line with Colonel Hal Kempfer, retired U.S. Marine Corps colonel, intelligence officer, national security analyst, and here we are talking about Greenland. Is Iran the big story, though, with the U.S. aircraft carriers moving closer to Iran and other military assets moving closer to Iran, given what's going on there?
I do think there's a very good chance that potential strikes are on the table if something else doesn't arise, some sort of negotiated position. One of the reasons, one of the many reported reasons why we didn't go ahead and do strikes last week, and there was a period where it looked like strikes were imminent, was because we just didn't have all the stuff in place to basically counter the counter-strike. Obviously, if we hit Iranian targets, Iran would have launched strikes at U.S. military bases, and this would have hit the territory of our Gulf region allies. And, Saudi Arabia was very strong in saying, hey, enter this now. We don't have the ships with the air defense systems, missile defense systems that we had before. So a lot of those missiles, a lot of those drones probably would have got through. Now with the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Task Force and a number of other ships going to the Gulf region, this gives us another capability. The other thing too is we could potentially launch, if we were to do strikes, we could launch strikes at sea. That would alleviate any of our regional allies in the Gulf of hosting U.S. military forces that were striking Iran. That's a big political consideration, along with the military firepower it brings.
On there live with retired U.S. Marine Corps Colonel Hal Kempfer, and now the U.K. and the U.S. also locking horns over Diego Garcia. That's an important island, right, where U.S. aircraft, military aircraft, are stationed. What do we need to know about this? Looks like they're trying to kick us out of there.
Well, first and foremost, I was stationed in Diego Garcia a long time ago, so I'm very familiar with this area. It's a unique place. It is basically, I mean, there is a small British presence there, but it's basically a big U.S. military base in the Indian Ocean. A couple of reasons. Number one, frustration. Members of Parliament have talked about, hey, if the U.S. is going to go forth with this Greenland military option, then kick all the U.S. forces off of all the U.K. bases. Well, Diego Garcia is one of the big bases that would affect. The other thing is they're taking great exception. Last year, in 2024, they reached an agreement with Mauritius to return sovereignty. This Diego Garcia, the Chagos Archipelago, is part of the Chagos Islands, which is part of the Mauritius chain going to the Indian Ocean. They were going to return sovereignty back to Mauritius. All of a sudden, there's been a big switch. Obviously, President Trump chastising them severely, saying that was a horrible mistake. They shouldn't be doing that, taking particular aim at Starmer. And this has just caused a lot of rancor between the U.S. and the U.K. over Diego Garcia. But it is a strategic island, and even if they returned sovereignty back to Mauritius, we were still going to be using Diego Garcia for the foreseeable future under that agreement as well.
Colonel, I wish we had more time, but we'll have to stop there. Thank you very much for coming to the line and covering everything that we just discussed, and we'll keep an open line to you as we watch what's happening with Iran and Greenland, and the list goes on. Colonel Kempfer, thank you very much for joining us live this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank.
Hal Kempfer, retired U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, national security analyst, and host of his Strategic Risk Assessment Talk podcast, also known as the Strat Podcast, based right here in Southern California. Moteka Money continues here in 790 KABC. Homelessness continues to be among the big issues impacting everyone here in Los Angeles, including businesses. Tonight's the night hundreds of volunteers will start fanning out throughout the Los Angeles area, including the San Fernando Valley, to begin the annual 3-night Greater Los Angeles Homeless Count. Joining us live now is Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission, the #1 organization serving the thousands of men, women, children, families, and seniors in Los Angeles who've been devastated by homelessness. Mark Hood on the front line of the homeless issue. Mark Hood, thank you very, very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
Frank, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Wonderful to have you with us here. And tell us, will you be participating in the count that starts tonight?
I will be. I am going to be helping with the count right here in Skid Row, starting at 8 o'clock tonight. So I'm very much looking forward to participating and understanding the process better.
All right, tell us how it's going to work this year. I understand they're using new technology to get a more accurate count. Last year, I believe the number was around 72,000, 74,000 or so, which of course is absolutely shocking. That number is higher than the population of most cities in the United States. The entire population, by comparison of Beverly Hills, for example, is 35,000. Here we're talking about a homeless population above 70,000 here in the Los Angeles area. Tell us how the count will be conducted.
Yeah, they actually have technology they brought into it this year to where there's an app on your phone. So it's a walking count, and each group is assigned a route that they're going to take, and then your phone actually tracks your route. And so to make sure you're staying on the course they've given you so people aren't overlapping each other. And then as you see men, women, and children as individuals, You just tap on, a person and, what their, estimated age may be. If you see a family, you're going to tap on family, and then it's going to ask you, how many people were in that family. Is there a mom? Is there a dad? How many kids? Estimate their ages. And then the part that I need to better understand is the other count is counting, tents, campers, RVs, to where you're actually just counting how many of them you see. What I'm going to understand better tonight is, what count is assigned. If I say, hey, I see one tent, what does one tent equate to as far as individuals, and how did we come to that estimate? But I'll better understand the process after we get through the operation tonight, so I have a better, a more educated opinion on how accurate the potential is.
Mm-hmm. Based on what you're seeing there on Skid Row and at the Union Rescue Mission, do you expect the numbers to go up or down? Tell us what's your feeling on the state of homelessness here in LA at the moment.
Well, I would tell you, Frank, I don't see a significant difference in the neighborhoods that I drive through. I think that it's a bit of a moving target. You see things improve in one area, and they might get a little worse in another. But I know there's a lot of people out there working really hard to try to make change. We certainly at Union Rescue Mission want to be a part of that change, because our goal isn't just to shelter people, but to end homelessness for the people that walk through our doors. So it's certainly my hope that we see a year-on-year improvement. But yeah, I'd be a little surprised if it was significant. The last year, the numbers went from 75,000 to an estimate of 72. And although any movement's good movement, I think that all of us in the Los Angeles area certainly want to see better improvement year on year that's a little more significant. So I hope we see that, but from what I see in the streets day to day, I don't expect a big improvement year on year.
On the air live with Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission. Tell us how URM sets itself apart with the comprehensive help for the homeless here in Los Angeles, with virtually no government support, by the way, and achieves the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator. Tell us about the work there at Union Rescue Mission.
Well, Frank, the mission is just really efficient. We want to be good stewards of the money we do receive. And so 87 cents of every dollar goes back into serving the people that are here. And a lot of that is possible because we have such great partnerships with universities like Pepperdine, USC, UCLA. So all of our guests, and even if you're not our guest, we offer free dental care, free medical services, free mental health care, free legal advice. We have everyone that comes through our door is assigned a caseworker to help them on their journey towards ending homelessness. Everyone has access to chaplains and counselors and mental health counselors. And, we've recently now grown what we offer people, so you can actually walk through the doors of Union Rescue Mission now and learn how to weld through great organizations like Reignite Hope, or learn how to be an auto body repairman through Compton College, or a CNC operator through College of the Canyons, or we're forming a partnership with the Carpenters Union, and so you have the opportunity to be an apprentice and ultimately become a carpenter or even an electrician with the Electricians Union. So we're really trying to have a holistic approach so that when we deal with the trauma in your life that took you to a place of homelessness, when we get you beyond that and you're in a better, stable place, we can put better tools in your toolbox so you're ready to go out there and be independent. So I think that's the real difference that we make. We're looking for not only to get people, deal with domestic violence and break addictions and all of those things that accompany homelessness, but on the other side of that journey, give you tools for a lifelong independence.
That's wonderful to hear, expanding the business partnerships and so many wonderful partnerships under your leadership since Reverend Andy Bales left and you've taken over there now. And this is a big year for URM with the 135th anniversary this year. And a gala's coming up too, right? So Angelinos can support URM in a big way. Tell us about that event coming up in March.
All right, so exciting. We just want everybody to turn out. 135 years of this mission serving the community of Los Angeles. And that night of the gala, March 21st at 6 p.m., is going to be a great evening. We're going to share a lot of our history and where we're at now and what the future looks like. But more importantly, Frank, is we're going to have guests that their lives have been transformed, that are going to share their journey. And so that the people that are partnering with Union Rescue Mission and sponsoring Union Rescue Mission will get to meet the people whose lives they're changing. And they're going to get to see what Union Rescue Mission is doing that's working so well to end homelessness for the people that walk through our door. So it's going to be a great celebration. You can find it on our website, on our landing page. You can go there to, sponsor the event or buy tickets for the event, buy a table for your friends and family for the event. But it's going to be a great night of entertainment, of laughter, maybe a few tears as people hear some very touching stories of transformation. But it's going to be a great evening, and we ask everyone to come out and celebrate with us and continue to sponsor the work this great mission has done for so many years for the city of Los Angeles.
You go to urm.org, by the way. That's the main website, urm.org. That gala, by the way, will be held at the Century Plaza Hotel in Century City on March 21st. So we want to reach as many business folks as possible. Of course, Century City is a big place where a lot of business people are eager to support URM. So we look forward to a tremendous turnout there at the Century Plaza Hotel on March 21st. We want to wish you and everyone involved in the homeless count tonight Godspeed. Please stay safe out there, Mark Hood, and look forward to your updates, which we will hear on the Way Home radio show and podcast here on 790 KABC at 6 p.m. on Thursday evenings. And look forward to speaking with you there. Mark Hood, thank you very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very, very much. Stay tuned now for the 790 KABC News Blitz with Randy Wang, and I'll be back with more at 4 tomorrow afternoon right here on Motac on Money on 790 KABC, Los Angeles, California.
The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauley Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauley Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauley rocking.